Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans.
Present.
Alderman Page. Alderwoman Negracia. Alderman Coder.
Here.
Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderman Gunther.
Here.
Alderman Vollmer.
You.
Alderman Lappy.
Present.
Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Todd.
Present.
Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys.
Here.
Alderwoman Walker.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross.
Here.
President Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Page.
Present.
Alderwoman Negracia. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Peel. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd. 20 present, you have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will be led in prayer today by Reverend Kim Meyer of First Unitarian Church.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Kim Mason. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I serve the First Unitarian Church of St. Louis here in the Central West End. Thank you for inviting me to give this morning's invocation. In Unitarian Universalism, we find many paths to the holy. So I invite you into a spirit of contemplation and prayer, mindful of the many beliefs present in today's gathering and in our city. Spirit of life, God of many names and no name, great mystery. We gathered today on the stage of history, celebrating the Board of Aldermen's first female president. May each of you know that you are not alone in your service, but connected to ancestors, communities today, and to future generations in need of your leadership. May you always strive to give voice to the voiceless, those with less privilege of position, class, ability, race, and gender. We gather today in person for the first time in years. What a wonderful time it is to be together. May these walls hold your thoughtful and impassioned deliberations. May they not be a barrier to the world, to communities, and to people beyond them. May all that you do bring healing rather than harm to the people of this city, of our nation, and of this planet. We gather today to begin again. In the aftermath of past transgression, this board begins again, recasting connections, renewing relationships, rebuilding trust. May you feel connected to the inner voice of integrity, conscience, and morality. May you choose to invest your time, resources, and goodwill into all that nurtures compassion, justice, equity, and peace. And we gather today humbly to do the work of the people. It is a sacred act to give one's time in the service of democracy. May you travel this road of service together as colleagues, with an eye to the future and a respect for the past, with mutual caring and respect, with open minds and hearts, with listening ears and the humility to admit that we are wrong as much as we are right. In the spirit of love, with compassion and connection, may the work of this board both be good and do good for the city of St. Louis and beyond. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Thank you so much. Special order of the day. We have none, correct?
We have none.
Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 23rd, you're recognized.
As always, I'd like to have my good friend Greg Meyer, who's actually able to be here with me today, as my special.
Thank you. Any more introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 19th.
Thank you very much, Ms. President. Okay. Is this better now? Thank you. Oh, it is, yeah. It needs to be further over. Okay. Yeah. So I'd like to have as my honor guest today, first of all, the firefighters from the engine house at Forest Park Avenue in Van de Vender. They were very, very, well, we know they're efficient all the time, but what they did to the senior citizens at Council Tower, eliminating a problem we had with elevators broken down and people needing to walk as much as 20 floors. They were so good, they were so kind. And it was exciting because the seniors were like children looking at the firemen, wanting to touch them. So I thank them and all the firefighters for what they do. You are all my honor guests today.
Alderwoman from the 26th. Any further introduction of honored guests? Approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes dated Friday, November 18th, 2022.
Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on the approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to have to be a little bit quicker moving here. Not a matter of pushing a button now. Got to actually get up to the microphone. I move that we approve the meeting minutes from our 8/20 meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we approve the minutes from Friday, November 18th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the aldermen's mailboxes. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individual for reappointment to the Senior Citizens Service Fund Board. The reappointment of Mr. Carl Wilson. I respectfully request your approval of the appointment. Sincerely, Tashara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderman from the 7th, you are recognized on the mayor's appointment to the Senior Services Fund Board.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to approve the mayor's appointment to the Senior Citizens Service Fund Board.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 7th, seconded by the Alderman from the 10th, that we approve the mayor's appointment to the Senior Citizen Service Fund Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment and reappointment to the Central West End Community Improvement District. The appointment of Ms. Deborah Hunter and the reappointment of Mr. Kenneth Fowler. I respectfully request your approval of this appointment. Sincerely, Tashara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderman from the 28th, you are recognized on the mayor's appointment to the Central West End Community Improvement District.
I respectfully move that we accept the mayor's recommendations for the Central West End North Community Improvement District.
Second.
It was moved by the Alderman from the 28th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th, that we approve the mayor's appointment to the Central West End Community Improvement District. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individual for appointment to the Gardenside Subdivision Special Business District. The appointment of Ms. Kaylin Lohr. I respectfully request your approval of the appointment. Sincerely, Tashara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderwoman from the 8th, you are recognized on the mayor's appointment to the Gardenside Subdivision Special Business District.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would move that we adopt the mayor's appointments to the Gardenside Subdivision Special Business District.
It was moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th. I'm going to say the Alderman from the 9th. It was seconded by the Alderman from the 9th that we approve the mayor's appointment to the Gardenside Subdivision Special Business District. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
That's the extent of report of city officials.
We will dispense with line item 7. Would anyone like to take any bills or resolutions off any of our informal calendars? Alderman from the 16th, you are recognized.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I'd like to request Board Bill 55.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you could please put Board Bill 55 on the third reading report of engrossments calendar.
So noted.
Thank you. All right, first reading of board bills.
Board Bill 125, introduced by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, appropriating a portion of funds received under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, authorizing certain expenditures of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend the funds to the extent received, containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 126, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, an ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposed amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis, repealing Section 1 of Article 4 of the Charter of the City of St. Louis relating to the composition of the Board of Aldermen, and enacting in lieu thereof a new section relating to the same subject matter, providing that the board's president and all alderpersons shall be employed in such roles on a full-time basis, and contain an emergency clause. Board Bill 127, sponsored by Alderman Coulter, an ordinance extending the term of existence of the Riverside Community Improvement District, containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 128, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the issuance, establishment of terms, and negotiated sale of airport revenue bonds not to exceed $150 million to finance the cost of purchasing, extension, improvement, or enlargement of the airport, providing for the funding of any required debt service reserve funds, and for the payment of cost of issuance, appointing a trustee, approving the form of an indenture, and authorizing the preparation, execution, and delivery of such documents and actions are as necessary or appropriate, repealing inconsistent prior ordinance provisions, and containing a severability and an emergency clause. Board Bill 129, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance repealing Section 4 of Ordinance 64517 by dissolving the special allocation funds for Argyle redevelopment area and terminating the designation of a portion of the City of St. Louis, Missouri as a redevelopment area, authorizing certain actions relating thereto. Board Bill 130, sponsored by Alderman Coulter, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment and the Board of Public Service, authorizing and directing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $30 million in the annual city budget established by ordinance number 71505, approved June 30th, 2022, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2023, for the deposit into the project fund of the St. Louis Municipal Finance Corporation Leasehold Revenue Bond Series 2020 for continuing improvements to the Cervantes Convention Center owned by the City of St. Louis, Missouri, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 131, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the Director of the Department of Public Safety or his designee on behalf of the City of St. Louis to enter U.S. Department of Justice 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Agreement to accept funds awarded, appropriating said funds, and authorizing the Department of Public Safety to expend the appropriate funds for allowed purposes, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 132, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis. An ordinance authorizing the honorary street name Nancy and Ken Kransberg Way pursuant to ordinance number 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of Washington Avenue and North Leonard Avenue and run east on Washington Avenue to the intersection of Washington Avenue and North Teresa Avenue. That is the extent of first reading of board bills.
Alderwoman from the 1st, did you want to introduce your bills? Okay.
Introduce the bills. I thought you were talking
Yes.
about them for me.
Yeah.
Got to get the bill numbers here. No.
It's 133, 134, 135, 136.
Madam President, you seek unanimous consent. Or else suspend the rules, but either one, okay.
Yes.
I seek suspension of the rules to introduce board bills. What were they?
131, 134, 133, 134, 135, 136.
133, 134, 135, and 136.
Second.
First reading.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 8th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing board bills number 133, 134, 135, and 136. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Balmer. Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Odenberg. Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross. President Green. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Spencer. 24 aye votes.
You sustained the motion to introduce board bills number 133, 134, 135, and 136. You need to read them.
Board Bill 133, introduced by Alderwoman Tyus, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 45 through 5400 blocks of Geraldine, the 5000 through 5200 blocks of Thekla, and the 52 through the 5400 blocks of North Euclid in the Mark Twain neighborhoods, the 4800 block through 4900 blocks of Lee, the 4900 block of Farland, the 4900 block of Margaretta, the 4000 block through 4300 blocks of North Euclid in the Penrose neighborhood, the 5100 through 5200 blocks of Ashland, Lexington, and Palm, and the 3000 block through 3400 blocks of Geraldine in the Kingsway West neighborhood, the 47 through 4800 blocks of Ashland, the 4700 block of Lexington, 1600 through 2800 blocks of North Euclid, the 2900 block through 3400 blocks of North Euclid, and the 3000 block through 3400 blocks of Shreve in the Kingsway East neighborhood. Board Bill 134, introduced by Alderwoman Tyus, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to prohibit parking and/or standing on the west side of North Euclid between St. Louis Avenue and Ashland and the east side of North Euclid between Ashland and Natural Bridge, requiring the Director to post signs. Board Bill 135, sponsored by Alderwoman Tyus, an ordinance pertaining to commercial semi-trucks, also known as semis or tractor-trailers trucks, prohibiting such traffic during certain hours on the Kings Highway Memorial Boulevard from the north boundary of Lexington Avenue to the south boundary of Dr. Martin Luther King, exempting from said prohibition emergency vehicles, including privately owned tow trucks, when providing emergency services to non-commercial vehicles and vehicles with a gross vehicle weight of less than 26,000 pounds and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 136, introduced by Alderwoman Tyus, an ordinance prohibiting parking of commercial semi-trailer trucks, cabs for semi-trailer trucks, or the cargo of or flatbed parts of the semi-tractor trucks, also known as semis or tractor-trailer trucks, on Kings Highway Memorial Boulevard or on the parking lots or parking abutting Kings Highway Memorial Boulevard from the north boundary of West Florissant Boulevard to the south boundary of Dr. Martin Luther King, exempting from said prohibition emergency vehicles, including privately owned tow trucks, when providing emergency service to non-commercial vehicles and containing an emergency clause. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Madam Clerk, please assign board bills number 133, 134, 135, and 136 to the Streets Committee.
So noted.
Reference to committee.
To the HUD Committee, Board Bill 125, 127, and 129. To the Personnel Committee, Board Bill 126. To Transportation and Commerce, Board Bill 128. To Convention and Tourism, Board Bill 130. To Public Safety, Board Bill 131. And to Streets, Board Bill 132, 133, 134, 135, and 136. That's the extent of reference to committee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please move board bill number 93 to the regular perfection calendar?
93. So noted.
Perfection consent.
I'm sorry, I have to do the second reading.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, jumping ahead. Go ahead.
The following board bill was reported out of the Streets Committee with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 77, sponsored by Alderwoman Tyus, an ordinance to protect the public health, safety, and welfare by prohibiting the use of alleys by operators of motor vehicle for drive-through traffic in the following neighborhoods: Kingsway East, Kingsway West, Penrose, Mark Twain, requiring the posting of those allowed to use of the alley, containing a penalty clause and containing an emergency clause. That's the extent of second reading. Report of standing committees.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
Okay, if you could please move board bill number 3 to the regular perfection calendar.
I'm sorry, what?
Board bill 93.
So noted.
Thank you. Perfection consent.
Board Bill 76, sponsored by President Green, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 22nd, 2022 for the 3629 Hydraulic Avenue area. Board Bill 83, sponsored by Alderman Lappy, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated March 22nd, 2022 for the 7726 through 7730 Virginia Avenue. Board Bill 73, sponsored by Alderwoman Evans, an ordinance authorizing the honorary street name Reverend A.L. Manson Senior Way pursuant to ordinance number 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of St. Louis Avenue and Euclid Avenue and run east on St. Louis Avenue to the intersection of St. Louis Avenue and St. Louis Avenue. Board Bill 112, as amended, sponsored by Alderman Coder, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 2400 block of South 13th Street, 2000 block of South 13th Street, 2300 block of Menard Street, 2330 block of South 10th Street, 2200 block of South 10th Street, 1800 block of South 10th Street, 1800 block of South 9th Street, 2100 block of South 10th Street, South 9th Street, 2200 block of South 9th Street, 2300 block of South 9th Street, 1500 block of South Broadway Street, 1300 block of South Broadway Street, 1700 block of South Broadway, 1900 block of South Broadway, 900 block of Sydney Street, 1000 block of Sydney Street, 1000 block of Victor Street, 1,000 block of Barton Street, 900 block of Shenandoah Avenue, 1,300 block of Ann Avenue, 1,000 block of Ann Avenue, 900 block of Ann Avenue, 1,000 block of Allen Avenue, 1,200 block of Allen Avenue, 1,000 block of Geyer Avenue, 800 block of Geyer Avenue, 700 block of Lafayette Avenue, and the 800 block of Lafayette Avenue. Board Bill 104, sponsored by Alderwoman Walker, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 28, 2022 for the 3401 Goodfellow Boulevard area. Board Bill 108, sponsored by Alderwoman Ingracia and Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 28, 2022 for the 2011 through 2125 Locust Street and 2106 through 2128 Washington Boulevard area. Board Bill 113, sponsored by Alderman Gross, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 28, 2022 for 490 North Kings Highway Boulevard and 4952 through 4956 McPherson Avenue area. That is the extent of perfection consent calendar.
Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt the perfection consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we approve the perfection consent calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 117, sponsored by Alderwoman Middlebrook, an ordinance adopted pursuant to the Intergovernmental Agreement Act, Section 70.210 to 70.325, inclusive of the revised statutes of Missouri, and authorizing the City of St. Louis by and through its Water Division for the purpose of outlining an agreement of the respective responsibilities of the parties with respect to the area described in the agreement, which sits in the City of Clayton, and authorizing the city to accept transfer of private easement from the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission and containing an emergency clause.
Alderman Middlebrook is not here. Alderman from the 7th, do you want to?
Request the sponsor and request we put this on the informal calendar. Someone knows what it is.
Board Bill 114, sponsored by Alderwoman Peel, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing and directing the issuance and delivery of one or more series of tax increment revenue notes, including the RPA 6 tax incremental revenue notes, in the aggregated principal amount not to exceed $4.6 million plus cost of issuance and containing the severability clause.
Alderwoman from the 17th, you are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 114. Okay, there was a motion made by the Alderwoman from the 17th to perfect Board Bill 114, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 8th. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Nothing's,
There you go.
okay. Hello?
Yep.
Okay. Board Bill 114 is, Board Bill 114 is to approve the St. Louis Innovation District's Cortex's request of a 4.6 tax incentive for the redevelopment project area RPA 6. Cortex will use the TIF for RPA 6 400 Clay Avenue. This will be residential 150,000 square feet of space. Development will build 165 apartment units at about 676 square feet each. 1,710 square foot of retail space will be built and 12,000 square feet of office. Construction is supposed to be 24. Occupancy and stability 25. Mixed income housing is going to have, in these 100, there will be mixed income housing. New construction will also be up. All right. All right. New construction of a surface parking lot is also going to be part of the project. In Board 114, Cortex also requests to extend the expiration date of the TIF request for the redevelopment project areas RPA 4 and 8. Cortex had 10 years to apply for the funds to use this TIF. Due to the fact that Cortex does not have a project for RPA 4 and 8, they request to extend the opportunity to receive a TIF for another 10 years when they have a project to present to the city. I'm available for questions regarding these board bills.
You are recognized to close.
I would like to renew my support for a motion to perfect Board Bill 114.
Been moved by the Alderwoman from the 17th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 8th, that we perfect Board Bill number 114. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call. Roll call. Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Negracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Vollmer.
Aye.
Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Peel.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross.
Aye.
President Green. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderman Stevens. Alderman Cone. "24 aye votes and 1 no vote.
By your vote, you sustain the motion to perfect Board Bill number 114.
115, sponsored by Alderwoman Peel, an ordinance adopting a second amended and restated TIF redevelopment plan, approving redevelopment projects for the redevelopment projects areas 4, 6, and 8 of the St. Louis Innovation District TIF redevelopment area, adopting tax increment financing within redevelopment project areas 4, 6, and 8, all as described in the second amended and restated St. Louis Innovation District Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan containing the severability clause.
Alderwoman from the 17th, you are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill number 115.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I move to perfect Board Bill 115.
Second. Been moved by the Alderwoman from the 17th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, that we perfect Board Bill number 115. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Board Bill 115 is a companion bill to Board Bill 114. So Cortex is requesting, again, $4.6 million of tax increment financing for the redevelopment project of RPA 6. They're also requesting, in terms of RPA 4 and 8, an extension on the expiration date for the TIF. As I mentioned, this project is going to build 165 units of about 676 square feet of housing, 1,100 square feet of retail space, and 12,000 square feet of office. The construction is supposed to be completed by 2024, and occupancy and stabilization by 2025. I would also like to mention that in terms of these two board bills, Board Bill 114 and 115, one of the things that is substantial regarding these TIFs is that we are going to be providing substantial shared equity. And we have some groundbreaking benefits with these bills. One is that mixed income housing is going to be provided in these 165 units. Another substantial benefit is that in Cortex, at this time, for the last 10 years, there has not been any housing at all. So we're going to be having a live, work, place opportunity on this complex for the first time. Thirdly, affordable housing has been a major problem for many constituents. And so we are going to be providing, or Cortex and Keeley Group are going to be providing about 10% affordable housing at 60% adjusted median income, which means that that is for an individual who is making $50,000 or less. And thirdly, in terms of these board bills, Cortex is going to be providing $250,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to preserve and maintain housing in the city of St. Louis. And lastly, the city will also recapture 10% of the redevelopment in RPA 6 in TIF revenues. It's a newly established strategic infrastructure for economic growth fund that we will be using for the first time in St. Louis. And all of these 4 items that I'm talking about will be an opportunity for us to provide shared equity in the city of St. Louis.
Further discussion, Alderwoman from the 1st.
Madam President, members of the board, if the Alderwoman from the 17th would yield.
The Alderwoman from the 17th, yield for questions from the Alderwoman from the 1st.
I yield.
Alderwoman from the 1st, you may proceed.
Alderwoman, while I was in the hospital, I got many, many calls from the people who are over in that area wanting me to go around you to help sponsor a bill, which I would not. Okay, in fact, I didn't even call them back until I called you. Isn't that correct? And at the conversation we had, I have been voting against these TIFs all of my political career. And so, and I know that you know about TIFs, and I know the concerns that you have had about TIFs, and I know what's going on. So my vote is going to be for you unconstructed, okay? There's nobody can make me vote yes to get on me. So my vote is for you, because it's a no. And I hope Shane Cohen, who is also, I'm sorry, the Alderman from the 25th, will also join in, because we have voted no for a long time. This is not to harass you. This is to know that I know you've been harassed, and I don't like bullies. And I don't like people who pick on people. And so since they called me, I never would have done that. This is a vote for you. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 17th, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to thank Mayor Tashara Jones. I also want to thank the President of the Board of Alder, Dr. Megan Green, and all my colleagues who worked tirelessly on this bill with me to enable us to have these groundbreaking benefits, to push for substantial shared equity in St. Louis. These are groundbreaking benefits. The first one is housing in the Cortex complex. This is the first time this bill will provide housing for St. Louis City residents in Cortex. The second groundbreaking benefit is mixed income housing in the Cortex project complex is going to be provided. For the first time, these board bills were sure that individuals earning less than $50,000 will have access to affordable housing. In the last 10 years, there's not been a single housing unit built on this complex. This bill will bring 165 units of housing. Of the 165 units, some of the housing units will go to people making $50,000 or less, and that's 60% adjusted median income. The third groundbreaking benefit is that affordable housing continues to be a major problem in St. Louis. Many of our working families are being squeezed out of housing and are having difficulties getting affordable housing. Working families in St. Louis need affordable housing. This board bill will provide $250,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to promote city living, neighborhood stabilization through the preservation and production of affordable, accessible housing and support services that enhance the quality of life to those in need. And fourth, additional benefits to the city. The city will also capture 10% of the redevelopment project area RPA 6 TIF revenues to the newly established Strategic Infrastructure for Economic Growth Fund after the comptroller's administration fees are deducted. This is under Section 403B of the 8th Supplemental Trust Indenture. Money that goes into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It speaks to the core interest in our city to provide more affordable housing. I thank you in joining me and Mayor Tashara Jones in perfecting this bill and extending the shared benefits to the residents.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 17th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, that we perfect Board Bill number 115. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Objection.
Alderwoman Tyus? No. Alderwoman Middlebrook? Alderman Bosley?
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans?
Aye.
Alderman Page?
Aye.
Alderwoman Gracia?
Aye.
Alderman Coder?
Aye.
Alderwoman Wright?
Aye.
Alderman Gunther?
Aye.
Alderman Bowman?
Aye.
Alderman Lappy?
Aye.
Alderman Stevens? Alderwoman Schweitzer?
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard?
Aye.
Alderman Odenberg?
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel?
Aye.
Alderman Todd?
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis?
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer? Aye. Alderwoman Keys?
Aye.
Alderwoman Walker?
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro?
Aye.
Alderman Narayan?
Aye.
Alderman Cone?
No.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd? Alderman Graz.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Stevens. 24 aye votes and 2 no votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion to perfect Board Bill number 115.
Board Bill 93, sponsored by Alderman Page, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 28, 2022 for the Cass Avenue, North 14th Street, O'Fallon Street, and Hogan Street area.
Alderman from the 5th, you are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill number 93.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we perfect Board Bill 93.
Second. Been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, that we perfect Board Bill number 93. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you. As I've shared in the past, Board Bill 93 is a redevelopment plan for Cass Avenue, 14th Street, O'Fallon, Hogan Street area. That area surrounds the Preservation Square housing project that is well under construction at this point. And I move that we perfect and pass Board Bill 93.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 26th.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you, Alderman Page. I did reach out to you this morning and ask you if we can move this to the regular perfection calendar, just so I can make a few comments. I know that we were all elected down here to serve in our respective places in our respective communities, but we also come down here with our own lenses of lived experience. And when I went back and watched that committee hearing on November 17th, it moved me. Brother Todd Ernst, L is family to me. It's personal for me. The way that I feel like some of his comments were dismissed kind of affected me to a point where I asked you and reached out to Neil Richardson and Lance Knuckles as well this morning, talking to them about, in its current form, we can have some more discussion with the community. So again, I am not, I don't have any specific questions for you, Alderman Page, but I'm asking you as your colleague, that if you could continue this conversation with the community that I know has reached out to you in several many ways. And again, knowing that after watching that committee hearing, I understand it passed unanimously out of committee and everything, but we as colleagues, I think, can work respectively together and make these kind of requests and moving forward so that we can work on the best behalf of our entire communities. Thank you, Alderman Page.
I will tell you that I was busy with other things and I did not see the messaging that may have come this morning. But I will say that I have been in discussions with the community, the Carr Square Village community. I understand the concerns. I have had conversations with Brother Todd Irons L. and others, Mr. Russell Houston, others in the community. And I'll tell you, I am all about community engagement. I am willing to have additional discussion about Board Bill 93 if my constituents in the community would request that. So, Madam President, I will say that I yield to the request for additional community input, community discussions, and let's move forward in the proper way to make that happen.
Okay. Are you requesting to put it on the informal calendar or to come back at a later date with the community hearings?
I tell you what, let's just move it to informal for today.
Okay.
I think that's the best move.
Okay. Thank you. If you,
Okay.
Madam Clerk, if you could please move Board Bill number 93 to the informal calendar.
So noted.
And I'd like to thank my colleague from the 26th for bringing these issues forward.
Thank you. Great.
That's the extent of board bills for perfection.
Third reading consent calendar.
Board Bill 107.
From the 25th, You are recognized on the motion for the third reading consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt the third reading consent calendar.
Was moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 8th, that we approve the third reading consent calendar. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer. Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross. President Green. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Boyd. 25 aye votes.
Vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 25th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading, report of engrossment and final passage.
Board Bill 55, sponsored by Alderman Oldenburg and the following alderpersons: Howard, Middlebrook, Narayan, Davis, Vaccaro, and President Green. An ordinance to amend City of St. Louis Revised Codes Chapters 4.18055, 4.18.225, 4.18.315, 4.19.120, 4.19.130, 4.19.140, and 4.19.170, so as to permit the Board of Trustees of the for the Firemen's Retirement System to simultaneously act as the Board of Trustees of the St. Louis Firefighters Retirement Plan, but not until such time as amendments to Missouri Revised Statutes 87.140, 87.145, 87.155, 87.206, and 87.350 have become law to permit the Board of Trustees of the Firemen's Retirement System to simultaneously act as the Board of Trustees of the St. Louis Firefighters Retirement Plan and contain an effective date.
Alderman from the 16th, you're recognized for the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 55.
Madam President, members of the board, I move to third read and finally pass Board Bill 55.
On the 16th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 55. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Son? Let's project. On out.
Do you want to try to?
Check. Oh, much better. Okay. Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, it seems often, too often, there aren't too many good days at the Board of Aldermen where us as elected officials feel that we have the chance to help people, to help workers. We often leave disenfranchised, or we close our Zooms feeling like we did not have an impact. I think we can change that today with the passage of Board Bill 55, because there are 3,400 firefighters, retirees, widows, and survivors that are counting on us today. They're counting on us to do the right thing, to put people and workers first, at a backseat to politics. Let them feel represented and in charge of their financial future, their own financial security for which they work so hard for. The problem, we know the problem. We have articulated the problem 2 weeks ago in perfection. We have articulated the problem over the last year. The problem is we have 2 firefighter pension systems for 1 job classification, that of a firefighter. Nowhere else in the country do we have 2 separate systems for 1 job classification. Yet again, another unique St. Louis problem, right? Well, we can fix that. We can put, with this board change, we can put 1 management, 1 administration, 1 set of consultants, 1 accountant, 1 set of lawyers, 1 set of actuaries, all rowing in the same direction. Also, it allows more buying power in the market for more stable returns. We know more stable returns means more stable contributions on behalf of the city and less expensive costs. So there's satisfaction here in voting aye in the affirmative of Board Bill 55, not for the economic reasons listed, but about making workers feel comfortable that they have firefighters, folks who have done their job, directing the financial experts and consultants who, again, will determine their financial security in the future. Now, I want you to visualize what the opposition, the small opposition to this, is going to say. They're going to say it's bankrupting the city. This move sets us back and will bankrupt the city. In fact, I'm pretty sure the mayor's communications director was quoted in the Post-Dispatch with that very statement, bankrupt the city. That's blatantly false. This is simply a board composition move. This doesn't undo what has already happened or make any changes to the benefit reductions that took place in 2011 and 2012. In fact, this bill doesn't even require a fiscal note. So that's the impact that it has on the city's balance sheet. This is simply a board composition change that puts workers first. And, again, can really help and impact people. We can feel good when this passes today, that it was a good day at the St. Louis Board of Aldermen. Let's value our city employees, and let's start by making them feel represented when it comes to their retirement system. Nothing further.
Discussion, any further discussion?
Thank you, Madam President. I just, want to make a point of clarification. I don't want to belabor the debate any further than it already has taken, over the course of this session. And this does not do anything to change the plan benefits that are administered underneath either of these plans. So it won't affect directly the benefits that are being received by pensioners at this point in time. It also doesn't change or combine the plans themselves. There will still be 2 plans. So the alderman from the 16th just said, that this is a good day, that it'll be an opportunity to, advance workers' rights. It doesn't do any of that. It's simply reverting the current administration of FRP to the FRS system, which is not designed for local control. That being said, I did get an email this morning from Fire, which I'm not sure if all of you have been able to check your email boxes this morning, but they put out a statement against Board Bill 55 for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the previous administration of FRS, which is what this board bill is reverting back to. So I, again, am rising in opposition to Board Bill 55. Thank you.
Discussion, any further discussion?
Good morning.
recognized.
Thank you. Say it again. Okay, I got you. Alderwoman Davis said we only got 2 hours, so. So no, I do appreciate your efforts in working hard to try to bring something across the threshold, to work hard to bring something across the threshold for our firefighters. I don't think any of us are in opposition at all to making sure that the firefighters' pension is funded. I will say this though, just to try to be short with it. I'm continuing to ask for certain documents that I'm not really kind of getting, and I just want us to be clear once again. What does it look like in the event that the pension system has a shortfall? Once again, let's say, for instance, we merge them and there's a $10 million shortfall that happens. What are the numbers that the city has to put in to continue to fund that pension system? I'm still not getting that answer. Whenever I ask that, it's always something that is inconclusive, that we can't come up with based on the market fluctuations. But that's an exact number, though. I mean, even if it's $1, how much do we have to pay back, or how much does the city has to pay in the event that the market doesn't, isn't favorable? Because we will have to pay something back under this, And once again, I'm not saying that we should not have to pay for the firefighters' pension, but we should know what those numbers are. So I guess a question would be, I'm sorry.
Asking to inquire.
Yes, please, with the Alderman Odenberg yield for questioning.
The alderman from the 16th yield for questions from the alderman from the 3rd. Indeed, I will. You may proceed.
Thank you. So in the event, once again, Fire has done, not Fire, but FRS has done an excellent job investing. They've done good, but we also know that the market fluctuates, right? So the question comes to, at some point in time, when we have done everything that we can and the market still makes its decisions, and maybe they aren't unfavorable in what we've invested into, how much is the city going to have to foot? Or how much is the bill going to be eventually? Is there a percentage? Are we looking at 2 or 3%, 6%? What does that look like, so we can actually have some realistic numbers on what we'll be paying back?
Alderman, bill passes or takes place or not, the city's obligated to fund its pension plan every year, and we budget accordingly to plans. I think last year in fiscal year 2023, the budget was $7 million was budgeted for the contract. Now, if there is a market correction, right, in most cases, the city is obligated to fund its pension plans. It will get sued if the city underfunds pension plans.
So once again, that's for our current system, correct?
Correct. That's for both.
Well, that's not all the way 100% true. For FRP, I believe, the independent system itself, we don't have to fund them in a way where we used to have to fund them. That's what the lawsuit was about.
The benefits are less under the FRP. So there was a benefit reduction. The savings associated. But those were from an 8% contribution of employee to a 9% contribution of employee. So employees contribute themselves to their retirement system. And mandatory 55 retirement. So that's also some savings. Join the department at 20 years old, you could retire technically at 40 and live another 45 years. That's an expensive proposition. So mandatory 55 as a retirement age, and then no banking of sick leave, which also is an expensive endeavor. So that exists right now in FRP. Those savings benefits, those would continue to remain under this board. So that's where the savings were. But there still is an obligation for that pension system to be contributed to year over year by the city.
That I understand,
Okay.
right? That I completely understand that. What I'm saying is, once again, under this new system, right, when we merge the two,
Yeah.
there is a difference in what we'll be actually funding based on them being merged at that point.
No, incorrect.
How-
First of all, I think we
how
should
is
be
that
clear. There's
incorrect?
not a merger. There's not a merger. FRP exists, FRS exists. There will be a
Well,
common
there is a
board of-
merger. There's an administrative merger, right?
I
Because we're
wouldn't
getting
call it
rid
a
of-
merger,
Well,
no.
why wouldn't you call it a merger? If we're getting rid of jobs right now that city employees hold, right? And we're saying that we're going to remove those jobs that they have, and the actual administrative personnel that are taking care of FRP right now will be the people that assume those obligations. That is some sort of a merger, right? What we're doing is we're merging the administrative. Well, I guess technically we're just firing people and saying we're going to have this independent branch, take care of it. I guess that isn't technically a merger. You're right, but once again, they won't be individuals that are working for the city. This would be an independent administrative branch that is already, not utilizing, but they're already working for FRP, correct?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat that question for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, did that little. So, wow. All right. So my question is, the current administration that is administering excuse me, I'm drawing a blank, administering the services of investing the monies for FRP will be the ones that are administering that same service for the, I guess, not merged, but for, once again, that's what I'm calling it, a merger, because it seems to me like a merger, even though it's not, you're saying it's not a merger. Is this not a merger? I don't think you said that. You said it's not a merger?
Alderman, there is a board of trustees that represents FRP, which is the new firefighter system. There is a board of trustees that represents FRS, which is the old firefighter pension system. Under Board Bill 55, the FRP trustees will not exist, and the FRS board will manage both systems independently, separate books and records, separate audits, still separate, but getting rid of duplicative services by using the same set of consultants, actuaries, and professionals.
Okay. Once again, I completely understand that. Thank you for articulating that. Once again, we are getting rid of the individuals who do that service right now for the city, right?
The FRP board composition is 2 appointments of the mayor, 1 from the comptroller, 2 active firefighters, 1 retired, and the budget director. Those are the board of trustees of the new firefighter pension system.
Okay. So with the old one, once again, the people that are administering these services, I'm just asking, this is just like a yes or no question. Are we getting rid of those people?
I believe there is some staff to that board that, yes, likely they will probably have to file for one of the 500 positions that the city has opened currently.
Okay. So once again, that's a yes, right? We are getting rid of those.
I believe I answered yes to that.
Okay, thank you. So we're getting rid of 2 city positions, which I don't believe, so I was just trying to get to this one point. We're getting rid of two city positions that isn't helping, the individuals who live within the city. I believe if this is a day where we're saying we want to help folks, number one, we should already have somewhere where these few individuals should be looking to go, or somewhere that we've already found within the city where their skill sets have already, shown to be something that works for us. We can give them some type of a position. So I think, when we're talking about basically firing people and saying that they can just apply for one of the 500 city positions, that isn't being as thoughtful as we could be in terms of this being a really good day for the entire board. So I will say that, because while we're saying particular things, there are people that are watching this war and could be hurt from it. Imagine what those people are saying to themselves right now, and they don't have, and we haven't given them a plan. They got families to feed, mouths, children, possibly, but I'm sure they have rent. I'm sure they have a car, and we're just simply saying as a board, hey, figure it out. We got 500 other jobs, so that in itself, with us saying that, this should be a good day for the city and the board, I think we have to look at that because it's a bad day for somebody else. And they have to figure it out based on the decisions that we make today. So, moving past that point, I really want to go into this money, but I know we all don't have, well, we got plenty of time. We on taxpayers' time, so, but, oh, y'all gonna get on me, huh? Well, excuse me. Uh-oh, I'm about to get in trouble. God! I'm gonna retract that then. No, I'm not. No, but, no, seriously though, so Mr. Odenberg. Go to my notes right quick. Yeah, we ain't been in session in a while, y'all. Y'all ain't ready to get out of here all quick and stuff. Where's the coffee? We ain't got no donuts. Who put this together? Everybody should be chewing on something right now, not even looking at like the clock. We got emails and stuff, All right. Okay. So at some point in time, the old firefighters pension system will phase out, correct?
Yes.
And there won't be anybody in it at all. What is it, like 2080 or something like that?
I believe it's 78 years from now.
So it's pretty
It will
long.
write its last check based on the actuaries.
So when that phases out, the people who are administering independently right now will still be the people that administering for the new one, correct?
Correct.
Well,
It'll
yeah.
still be the same representatives
From
and
today.
positions on that board of trustees that we exist today, yes.
All right, great. So what does, I guess we said we got 3,500 new firefighters right now? Or 3,500 in the new?
No.
Is it 3,500 altogether?
Altogether, everyone who's administered and all of it. So FRS has 1,381 members, 890 retirees, and 300 widows. The new FRP has 728 members and 96 retirees.
Okay. So we are hoping to increase the population at some point in time in the city, and hopefully we also get more police officers, firefighters, EMS workers, and all that in the same, right? Which means that there also would be a higher administrative cost for administering these services, which once again that new administration independently makes and sets that cost, right? Right now they make and set their own, they set it up themselves, right?
Yes, they set an annual operating budget each year, both boards.
And the city has nothing to do with that, as far as the independent one.
Correct.
So in the
Each
event-
board sets up its operating budget, correct.
Understood. And we don't oversee that budget as a city. We only oversee FRPs, right?
Correct.
So with FRS being an independent administering board or, administration.
It's a creature of state law, yes. Alderman.
Exactly. What is the cost going to look like for us in, let's say, 10 years? If, once again, when they add on another 1,000 accounts, what does that potentially look like? Right? Being them independent and they're not having any oversight by the city budget director. If there is, once again, a shortfall, things happen, what does it look like taking on 2,000 more firefighters?
Sure, sure. The operating budget will be set year to year based on the performance of the funds and based on the expenses anticipated. So I couldn't tell you what the budget would look like in 10 years.
So we have no control over that as a city either, correct?
No. I mean, we fund based on whatever operating budget FRS proposes.
And we'd have to fund that then.
Well, for their operations, yeah, which I believe are, well, you're funding that
It's like
anyway. You're funding that
$800,000.
now for another 80 years. That's an expense of administering the fund, correct?
What the difference is, Paul Payne and other individuals who, well, I won't just say Paul Payne, the budget director, and individuals who work in that office, they oversee the present one that we have in FRP. So, if we have to change some things in the budget just to make sure that those administrative costs are taken care of, the city has to do and will do what it needs to do to make things pretty equitable and fair across the board. We won't have any look into the actual budget for that administration nor any control over it. We don't have a member that works from the city of St. Louis in that administration.
No, we do. We do.
No, we don't. There's not a person who works for FRS that's administering services.
sure.
None
Staff.
of them work. That's
Those
right.
who
There's no
staff
staffing
support.
that, they don't work
Correct.
for the city, so they're not accountable to the city.
Correct.
So, where else do we have a system that, that could potentially leave us in a place where we don't know what the administrative costs are going to be for a year-to-year, change?
Well,
I think
state
those things are important.
state statute will dictate, I mean, they have to do an annual audit each year.
That's the
I mean,
state, though. The city.
Correct.
We want to have control over the stuff in the
You're-
city that the state gives us the ability to
You're
control.
underscoring my point here, Alderwoman, that there's not a city watchdog constantly pinching pennies, and twice now, you're the second alderman that has mentioned that we would actively underfund a pension system. So that's the point of financial security, is that we have the workers and not bean counters at City Hall constantly saying around every turn, we're going to underfund pension systems when we're legally obligated to fund them at a certain level.
I don't think anybody wants to underfund the pension system at all. Why do you think FRP is opposed to this?
I don't know that FRP is opposed to this. I know there are certain members in the administration and the budget director's office that is opposed to this. And I couldn't contemplate on what's inside their head in opposition to this. My guess would be that, there's still bruised feelings from the fight that took place in 2012. There's probably still bruised feelings with the lawsuits that are happening now without folks getting advanced and promoted. I can't possibly contemplate, all the political dynamics that you're referencing.
I think that was much political, but all right. Once again, I think we need to take a step back, have some more conversation about this. If we have individuals that we are working for the better good for, saying that, and they are firefighters as well, saying we need to take another look at this, I think we probably should take another look at it and take our time having more discussion about it and conversation. With that being said, everybody remember, when you vote today, you're voting to remove somebody's livelihood at the same time. You have individuals who actually work right now, and we don't know what we're going to do with those individuals in the event that this board bill does pass. I think we need to take a look at that and maybe have some conversation with them as well. I would hate to wake up and individuals vote my job away, which could easily happen very, very soon. So with that being said, we need to think about all of those things. We're doing that same thing right now, right? And that's something to look into. We need to, take care of our folks. And I'm not saying we're not taking care of the firefighters we're not taking care of other individuals because it is kind of like a sacrificing these people. But, if we can do a little bit better, I think we should do a little bit better. And these are things that aren't really pressing like tomorrow. If it doesn't happen, city's going to fall apart. But let's, take care of those who've been working for us and working with us, and let's start treating our employees as individuals who are like members of our board to some degree. We got to start listening to them. So with that being said, thank you. I rise in opposition, and I will cut it short for now.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 23rd, you are recognized.
My vertigo doesn't work well. No, I'm actually in support of this, but would the Alderman of the 16th yield for a quick question?
Alderman from the 16th, would you yield to a question from the Alderman from the 23rd?
Always.
Alderman from the 23rd, you may proceed.
Thank you. When these are combined, it's my understanding there's fairly substantial savings on the administrative costs. How much is that?
Well, if you look at the operating budget, and thank you for the question, Alderman, if you look at the operating budget of FRP, it's around $500,000. I will always contend that the cost savings here are a byproduct, right? I mean, the lead blocker in this legislation is putting out financial comfort for firefighters, knowing that their financial destiny is in charge of workers. And again, not bureaucrats.
So the money it saves, about $500,000 a year.
I believe that's the byproduct, give or take.
Okay. And again, when we talk about, we were sued already by the fire, police, and the city pension, and we have to fund it at 80%. We get a 3 and a 5-year smoothing on these different pension systems. But to say that this one system is not protected because it wasn't part of the lawsuit, it's only going to mean it's going to go back to court. We've stated it over and over now that this system doesn't have to be funded. It'll end up in court by the firefighters. It's probably going to be pretty soon, especially when they finally figure out that that one's not included in the lawsuit. I believe, am I right on that?
Can you repeat that?
And that the new system isn't included in the court case that went back. So if the city chooses not to fund that, they're not as obligated, where the other ones, they are obligated to keep them funded at 80%. And we've stated over and over here that, gee, but this one's not there, so if we want to screw these guys over and not fund that one, we can. Having alerted the fire to that, I assume they're going to sue now to make sure that's funded at 80%.
I understand your question now, Alderman. Yes, I think hyper-technically speaking, you're correct. FRP can only sue if the majority of the members of that Board of Trustees votes to sue in the result of their pension system being underfunded. Again, see, a city-dominated board, how do you think that vote's going to go?
Right.
You're right.
And so I would be scared if I'm a fireman, and it's hard enough to recruit firefighters, and it includes the EMS workers in this, I'd be nervous about wanting to get in that system either. When there's that, I don't have control, and if we decide we're not going to fund it, it would take that group to say, gee, we are going to take it to court to make sure that system's funded, when you got a group that clearly would not think it's a good idea to have to go to court and sue themselves to make sure they fund something. So I just wanted to speak on that. I get really, it's the only system that we've said, gee, we can underfund this, and we could use that money to do something with, and I think that's a terrible statement to make. And other than that, I'm in support of this all the way. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 10th.
Yeah, I'd just like to maybe call a rules meeting. The previous two aldermen have said that we just have one quick question. I would like a definition for quick question added to our rules, please. If you're going to say that, please adhere to it. Thank you.
Well, I second that.
Thank you, Alderman. Any further discussion? Alderman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President. I promise this is a really quick question, if the Alderman from the 16th will yield.
Would the Alderman from the 16th yield to a question from the Alderman from the 11th?
I will.
Just so I'm crystal clear here, the new plan, the FRP plan right now has no representation from the workers who work in the field that get support from this pension plan. That's correct?
Does not have majority representation. So the new plan has 2 mayoral appointments, 1 comptroller, 2 active firefighters, 1 retiree, and the budget director. So of those 7 members, 3 are represented by workers.
So it's not balanced, and the balance is against the people who work in the field. Is that
Understood.
correct? Okay. So just now that I'm crystal clear on that, I just want to state, my only chance of being able to retire, having worked 17 years in the grocery store, is the little pension I get from UFCW. And if Schnucks and Deerbergs were the people who decided what we get paid, and it wasn't balanced between us and the workers who work in the field and the representatives of the United Food and Commercial Workers, I would feel extremely insecure in my retirement instead of just kind of insecure. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, Alderman from the 16th, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President. I renew my motion.
Having been moved by the Alderman from the 16th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 55, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Tyus. Present. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. No. Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Alderman Page.
No.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderman Gunther?
Aye.
Alderman Vollmer?
Aye.
Alderman Lappy?
Aye.
Alderman Stevens? Alderwoman Schweitzer? Alderwoman Howard?
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg?
Pass.
Alderwoman Peel? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you. Alderman Todd?
No.
Alderwoman Davis?
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer?
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys?
Aye.
Alderwoman Walker?
No.
Alderman Vaccaro?
Aye.
Alderman Narayan?
Aye.
Alderman Cone?
No.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
No.
Alderwoman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Grice?
Aye.
President Green?
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook? Alderman Stevens? Alderman Oldenburg?
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel? 17 aye votes, 7 no votes, and 2 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion of the Alderman from the 16th to third read and finally pass Board Bill number 55. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 107 and Board Bill 55.
With all other business being suspended, the president shall in open session affix their signature hereto to the end that these shall become law. All right. Courtesy resolution calendar. We could please move courtesy resolution number 148 to the first reading of resolutions.
So noted.
Courtesy resolutions consent calendar.
We have none.
First reading of resolutions.
Resolution 147, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, HVAC AC improvements to the City of St. Louis Civil Courts Building.
Alderwoman from the 20th, you are recognized on the first reading of resolution 147.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, resolution 147 is,
It's not on, it's number.
say that again.
Come up to mic 5. Come up to that. Sure.
It's a little tall for me, but I can make it do. We really have to aim this sucker down. All right. It's a good look. Thanksgiving. All right. Resolution 147. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Resolution 147 is something we discussed in the Public Safety Committee. The courts building, Judge Stelzer came before the Public Safety Committee a couple of weeks ago and was expressing the need for some serious capital improvements. Our
Alderwoman,
courts
would you
building-
like to request unanimous consent?
Excuse me, yeah, thank you, Madam President. I would like to request unanimous consent.
Okay. Madam, please proceed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as I was stating, thank you for the correction there. Resolution 147, we heard it in the Public Safety Committee. Judge Stelzer came before Public Safety with a long list of capital improvements that are really necessary to our civil courts building. For anybody who has been over there knows that it's a very outdated building, and the folks who use it, really, including our judges, but our general public really do deserve a air quality that is not currently present. We are, with this resolution, requesting that we take a look at this particular aspect of the capital improvement request from the Civil Courts building as a way of improving energy efficiency. The state of Missouri has a program for municipalities to access funds, state funds at a very, very low rate and to pay them back out of the energy savings. City of St. Louis has used this program before to update aspects of the City Hall building and a few other buildings, so it's one which the city has some history with, some experience with, and it's a good program. So this just allows us to do some HVAC updates to the Civil Courts building in a way that makes sense for us financially. And with that, Madam President, I'd like to renew my request for unanimous consent, considering we've already discussed this in committee.
No, you have to make a motion now.
I move that we unanimously approve Resolution 147.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 20th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 14th, that we approve Resolution number 147. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 148, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Coder, and Alderman Gunther. The Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis pause to express our deepest sympathy to the family of Mr. Tony C. Miller upon his passing, and we celebrate his achievements and service to our community.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 20th, you are recognized on Resolution number 148.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board.
Would you like to request unanimous consent?
I'd like to request unanimous consent on Resolution 148.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Many members of this body have come to know Officer Tony Miller over the years. I did not expect to get this emotional right at the bat, but for those of you who knew Officer Miller, he was really the embodiment of community policing. He took his job at St. Louis City Police Department very seriously. His community engagement was impeccable. He was a person who genuinely cared about the public good. And we lost Officer Miller just a year ago, and this is really a resolution to commemorate his service, his dedication to our city, to our communities, and really being an example of what community policing can and does look like. While his family's not here with us today, we will be commemorating him at a ceremony initiated by his family, and I'd like to invite members of this body to when we get the details, to join us for that. And Madam President, I would like to request that we do pass this in bank and give other members here an opportunity to speak.
Second that request.
If they so desire. But Officer Miller was not only a friend, but somebody who I truly admired and looked up to, and I know many of my colleagues here feel the same way.
Put resolution number 148 in bank.
There needs to be a vote.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it was motioned by the Alderwoman from the 20th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 19th, that we pass Resolution 148 in bank. Madam Clerk, could you please call, or we make it in bank, sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Any further discussion? All right. We still need to make the motion to.
The motion was to pass it in
bank. Okay, let's do it. All right, Resolution 149.
Resolution 149, sponsored by Alderman Page, 60 Plaza Square Community Improvement District fiscal year 2022 through 2023 budget.
Alderman from the 5th, you're recognized on the first reading of Resolution 149.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I rise to request unanimous consent in the matter of resolution number 149.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Resolution number 149 is a unique entity. It is a simple entity. It is a one-building community improvement district, or SID. It is located at corner of 17th Street and Olive. It is the 60 Plaza Square Community Improvement District. Everyone else knows it by blue spaces. This is a very simple request. I've worked very closely with their board of directors to get their new board in place, approved by the mayor. And now we're approving their budget. And as you can see from the attached documentation, all of their budget goes towards security of the building. So with that, I move that we pass Board Bill 149. Resolution 149, sorry, by unanimous consent.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th, that we approve resolution number 149. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 150, sponsored by Alderwoman Tyus, Land Reutilization Authority required to uphold neighborhood standards.
Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized on the first reading of Resolution 150.
Mike 5.
I know I can talk louder than this, but I thought we had to record this thing.
Yeah, that's true. Is it turned on? We need a resolution to buy some new music.
Thank you.
Okay. It don't make no sense.
That's too high. Testing, 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 testing. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. My apologies to our clerk, but this is a very important resolution, long time coming, and I'd ask that you read this very long resolution. Do you need a copy of it? Here you go.
Resolution 150, Land Reutilization Authority required to uphold neighborhood standards. Whereas the City of St. Louis has 79 wonderful neighborhoods throughout its boundaries and should strive to make sure the neighborhoods receive fair and equal services. Whereas said city services include trash, refuse services, making sure homeowners keep their property up to building standards through building inspections, and make sure homeowners keep the property that abut alley cleaning, cutting grass on city-owned property and private property where the owners have violated ordinance number 59860 and allowed the grass on their property to grow taller than 7 inches. The demolish buildings and the poor secure board up of vacant buildings that may effectively utilize in order to provide housing, new industry, and jobs for the citizens of St. Louis. Whereas currently in many North St. Louis city neighborhoods, property owners and residents who keep their property in good repair and up to building code standards, whose front and backyards are cut, trimmed, and manicured, along with keeping their property of the alley, making sure the trash in front of their homes is picked up, are being left feeling depressed, deprived, disrespected, and dehumanized by the failure of the city, SLDC, and LRA commissioners to properly and legally maintain the LRA-owned properties and lots that are next to their homes and properties. Whereas in 1971, under the state law, there was created an authority for the management, sale, and transfer other disposition of tax delinquent lands in the city of St. Louis, which is known as the Land Reutilization Authority of the city of St. Louis, Missouri. LRA was created to foster the public purpose of returning land which is in non-revenue generating, non-tax producing status to effective utilization in order to provide housing, new industry, and jobs for the citizens. Whereas there are 3 LRA commissioners appointed by the mayor, the comptroller, and the Board of Education, whom shall have power and shall be their duty to manage, maintain, protect, rent, lease, repair, insure, alter, hold, return, assemble, sell, trade, acquire, exchange, or other dispose of any real estate on terms and conditions as may be determined in sole discretion of the commissioners. The Land Reutilization Commissioners may assemble tracts or parcels of real estate for public parks or any purposes to such end, may exchange or acquire parcels and other effectual such purposes by agreement with any taxing authority. Whereas the great majority of approximately 6,862 lots and 1,099 properties for a total of 7,961 parcels owned by LRA are located in neighborhoods and communities in North St. Louis, from north of Page Boulevard to the south of Riverfront to the north, and the riverfront to the east of the city limits to the west. And whereas through the last 41 years, the property owned by LRA has become an overwhelming burden in which City of St. Louis SLDC and the LRA commissioners have not been able to get a manageable, proper handle on the safe board up of the vacant properties, the exterior maintenance of the properties, and the maintenance of the yards, abutting alleys of the properties and lots owned by LRA. Whereas under the city charter, the building division is responsible for the enforcement of the city building code, issuing building permits, conducting building inspections, demolishing vacant buildings, and enforcing zoning ordinances. And the Forestry and Parks Department are responsible for cutting city parks and cutting city-owned property and private property where the owners have violated ordinance number 59860 and allowed grass on their properties to grow taller than 8 inches. And whereas with the addition of more and more LRA-owned properties from 1970 through 2022, the city agreed to provide board-up services to the properties and yard maintenance for the lots and properties up until 2003, did a fair job of providing those services. Whereas sometime between 2003 and 2013, during the Slay mayoral administration, the administration decided to withdraw proper maintenance from the LRA-owned property, instituting a policy of only board-up basement and first floor doors and windows, cutting grass on lots every 4 to 6 weeks, cutting grass on properties over 6 to 8 weeks. Even with the outrageous illegal maintenance policy set by the Slay administration, the grass gutting was often deferred for even longer periods of time, sometimes only cutting grass three times in a cutting season that ran from April through October or November, thereby letting the grass grow well beyond the 7-inch limit imposed by city ordinances. The alleys abutting these properties were not clean and maintained at all. Even from outrageous, as of today's date, there are LRA-owned properties that have not had a backyard cut in 5 to 7 years and require a backhoe or some other heavy equipment to clean these backyards and alleys. Whereas the property owned by LRA are not often boarded or painted on the second floor windows, causing the vacant properties to make the front landscape of the block to look abandoned and neglected, to depreciate the value of other properties in which they are located. Also, the boards on the basement and first floor windows and doors are easily ripped off, leaving the vacant building open to vagrants and criminal elements to enter. The illegal occupants of the property often use drugs or set the property afire, making these vacant properties that are often next to occupied properties, a danger to the surrounding residential communities and the people who live there. Whereas the residents living in North St. Louis have community standards that are being violated by LRA, and they should not have to put up with total failure by the city, SLDC, and LRA commissioners to properly maintain LRA-owned property. This lack of maintenance and proper care is causing the values of community properties to be devalued, making it hard for residents to get and maintain property insurance at a reasonable price and unfairly exposing the residents to criminal activities next to their homes. And whereas the city charter never envisioned the building division and forestry would be required to take maintenance on this overwhelming amount of LRA-owned parcels, and our city board-up crew, forestry department are woefully understaffed and do not have enough of the proper equipment to handle the building and your maintenance of these LRA-owned properties. Whereas with the city receiving both federal funding and RAM settlement, now is the time for the city, SLDC, and LRA to work out an agreement to separate the maintenance of lots and parcels of LRA and contract them out to private companies, also to allow these property owners who live in their property to provide your maintenance service to the LRA-owned properties that abut their properties and allow the owner to be reimbursed by a fund set up for this purpose. Now, therefore, let it be resolved, this honorable board requests that the city, SLDC, LRA, along with the sponsor of this resolution, meet within the next 2 to 3 months to determine a policy or a plan to implement private contractors and owners occupied residents who abut LRA-owned properties be allowed to contract for the yard maintenance of LRA-owned property so that it will be in place by the time the April 2023 cutting season begin. Be it further resolved that this honorable board requests that the city, SLDC, LRA, along with the sponsor of this resolution, meet with the next 2 to 3 months to determine a policy or a plan to implement private contractors be allowed to contract for the proper board up of LRA-owned properties by private companies that can be returned to effective utilization in order to provide housing, new industry, and jobs for the citizen, and to provide for a assessment within 30 to 60 days of whether the property should be boarded and marked for rehabbing or if the property should be demolished. Lastly, if the property is determined that it needs demolishing, that said property be demolished within a year. Introduced this first day of December 2022 by the Honorable Sharon Tyers, First Ward Alderwoman.
Madam President, members of the board, I seek unanimous consent.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed.
Madam President, members of the board, I do want to address this issue somewhat. So I think I have to do a motion first that I pass resolution
150.
150 out of the board with a due pass recommendation. It will be if you suggest that.
All right.
Okay.
We have a motion by the Alderwoman from the 19th to make Resolution 150 in bank, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 14th. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alderwoman from the 1st, you may proceed.
Madam President, when I came back here in 2013, I was appalled to look at how the property was kept in North St. Louis, in my neighborhoods where most people own property. For many, many years, we were the highest voting ward in the city. Before there was integration, this is where black people lived who owned their own property, sent their kids to school, followed all the rules. And all of a sudden, I was like, what happened to this property? Then I started learning about that the Slay administration, who was still in office when I came back, had changed these rules, which are in violation of the laws that we have. We have a law that says you cannot have grass that grows higher than 7 inches tall. That is a law. But they decided that they were not going to cut grass on lots and on property from any place to 4 weeks to 8 or 12 weeks. It progressively got worse. I started looking at the board ups, which used to be kept up pretty good. and all of a sudden, the board ups were just thrown up there. And really, I want to take up for the workers of the city of St. Louis and say they were doing the best they could do because we had too much going on. And I started to look at what the charter said about how these things should be done. And the charter does not even envision there being an LRA, because this was written way before LRA. And now that we have this fund, we got this money in which we can do things with, we cannot continue to allow the people that live in a certain part of the city, because most of these properties are in North St. Louis. There are a few in Southeast St. Louis, but they're in St. Louis. And the administration just took the position that, well, okay, it's not us, and this is all right. It's not all right. This is how you run people away. And it proceeded for 4 terms under the Slay administration, and then it proceeded under the Cruzen administration, and it's been going on for almost 2 years under the current administration, and it is wrong. These people do not live north of Page. I live north of Page. I can live where I want to live. I'm there to raise a whole bunch of heck for the people who cannot raise heck. Okay, and so when I look at this money that we have now coming in, and we're talking about all these other things, if we want to keep people in the city, we got to give them a reason to stay in the city. We got to make them know that they are important. These are mostly people who have not gotten tax abatement. They haven't gotten anything except for not. Right, they haven't gotten anything except for an increase in tax and a lack of services. I heard the alderman from the 23rd Ward talking about that. Why I just been so irritated about trash pickup, buildings being demolished or boarded up, or just this grass. I was sick. I had my husband drive me around, laid down, taking down things to tell them to cut grass, because I just couldn't believe any administration would think that's all right to let people live in a place that looks like a 3rd or 4th world generational world community, or not community, I'm looking for the word is nation, thank you. And I'm like, we got all this money. We built stadium. I've been down here since we built the football stadium. The baseball stadium moved across the street because they ran out of tax abatement. We got the soccer stadium. We let the hockey team practice and play in a building that we own, that we did not allow them to not pay rent. But someplace over there in the alphabet soup, they got rid of what we said, and they don't pay any rent. But yet we can't cut grass. Makes no sense. We can't properly board buildings. We can't make people know that they're important. They don't care about all this stuff that's downtown that everybody votes for and thinks so important. They want to live their life in a comfortable, safe situation. They do not get to do that. I had occasion to drive around with the police and the fire because we're closing some streets and they were marking things. And all of my private residents, just about 99% of them, they had their grass cut. And it was mostly black people, but there was a white policeman with me. He said, Alderwoman, the only thing I see that's not cut are these lots. He said, who do they belong to? I said, who do you think? He said, LRA. I said, exactly. So people get an idea of who and what North St. Louis is because they see stuff that the city is doing. Not only, they're just leaving this because they don't live there. And I think that's why I am so adamant about when you're putting people on boards and commission, and even working in the mayor's office, they ought to live in these neighborhoods, because otherwise they don't care. They just think it's all right. Oh, that's not me. Oh, that must be how those people are. No, they aren't. Until they tore my ward up, and you can go right down Euclid and put part of my ward in the 4th Ward. We voted the highest in the city Democratic. We was always one of the top 3. This was done on purpose by a very willful mayor that ought to have a black mark across his face, because he did this on purpose. And nobody has felt the need to call him out and say, this is not okay. This is how he got 4 terms. Because when you have black middle class people, which my people were, black middle and upper income, everybody who lives on Lindell that's black except for one came from my ward. When you have these people, then they tend to not be able to be bought for a turkey. So how you make them leave is you give them tall grass, buildings that are not demolished, buildings that are not boarded up, and you just make it so that they just finally say, I'm out of here. And I've had at least 8 people in this current administration say, Sharon, I know you really believe in this city, but I'm out of here. And cutting grass is the most simple of things. If you got this much money and you're not cutting grass, shame on you, and I don't care what color you are and what sex you are and if I supported you or not. If you cannot cut grass, which immediately when this administration got in here, I start to send stuff to Nancy Rice, and the mayor's liaison is over there because he knows it's the truth. And she was like whining about, why am I sending that? I'm sorry, not Nancy Rice, Nancy Cross, not Vince's people. And she's whining about, why am I sending her that? I'm sending her that because you hired my neighborhood improvement specialist away, and my husband and I are out there, and we're looking at all this stuff, and we're looking at alleys of LRA property that need a backhoe or some brush cutter to get in there, and who says that's all right? And who thinks that we can do that to people? And all of us that are African American in here either live in North St. Louis or have people who live in North St. Louis who grew up there. So we know about this. It is not okay to think that my community can be like this, and I don't care who it is. And I would suggest that the mayor should move herself, her son, and her dad over into where we live until the grass is cut, until the buildings are tore down, until the buildings are properly boarded up, because it is the mayor's responsibility under the charter to cut grass, to board up building properly, to make sure we have a safe place to live. And if you're not doing that, then that's your fault because you haven't made it a priority. So when you live behind the Chase Park Plaza and you go, oh, why is this? Oh, the grass is tall? Why are they so upset about that? Because you don't live by it. Now, it's not on Mather Place because they don't do that for Mather Place where I live. They also pick up the trash. But that's not okay that they give me good service and they give the people who live up in the 4900 block good service, but a block over, they don't give them good service, or 2 blocks over. That's not okay, or in another ward. That's not okay. So what I'm out here to say is that if we are going to be a city that's proud about being a city, then we have to address things, and we have to open up, and we have to make sure we address things and not say, well, that's not me. It is you. When people talk about why don't you have this in the wards? We don't have things in the wards because the mayor Slay didn't want them in the wards. Because I had built $53 million worth of new stuff, and he wanted that stopped. Because that's not a good look when you're saying that North St. Louis is a dumping ground, but there's this woman over here who raised all this heck that is building schools, and we don't have a grocery. We have a grocery store, we have a Walgreens, we have schools, we have banks, credit unions, things that I've built. But you still can't keep people, if when they come out to cut their grass, there's grass up to here, around our schools, and next to people, and they usually cut the front yard without anybody reimbursing them. But nobody has sat down and said, how can we stop this? The easiest thing, one of the easiest things, is pay the people who live next door to this property. Pay them. You're already taking care of your property, so pay them $40 or $50 per cut. That'll get rid of a lot of it. It's not to blame forestry. It's not to blame the building division because it's not their fault, but it is the mayor's fault. It's the director of operations' fault. Nancy Cross, not Nancy Rice. It's your fault. It is your fault. And you have to make it be a priority. And you can't just sit there and go, well, I don't know what to do. Then you don't need that job to me, okay? I spend my time, sick or well, out in my community, writing up. I used to write up 500 automatic requests or more a year. How I met the mayor's liaison is that he was my neighborhood improvement specialist, and he got very frustrated about something that was going on. He called me, and I sent him a treatise of things saying, look how much I've been working on this. And he was like, wow, I work on this stuff all the time. So it's nothing that can't be fixed. It's got to have money put toward it, and not the kind of money that we put $10 million in the street of Washington for cable and internet connection back when Clarence Harmon was the mayor. We don't even use that anymore. Just imagine if we would put $10 million to getting rid of the vacant properties and buildings, and also cutting the grass and properly boarding, because a lot of things wouldn't have to be torn down if you properly boarded these things. And so for me, I've been talking about this for a long time to people, and everybody's saying, Sharon, you need to put that into writing. I know I did. So I stayed up all night. This is what I've been doing, staying up, because I can't stand another person to come and tell me I really love where I live, but I can't live here anymore. And what I want to say is that most of the people that I have came from the Ville neighborhood that used to be in the fourth ward and the Greater Ville. It used to be a thriving community. The reason why it went down is because people were not putting the proper attention to it. Now, I'm lucky. I'm an attorney. My husband is a city planner. The things that we were able to do is because he could pick up the phone and call people to get things done. So we could get things done. And so we put that to use. But we can't put that to use with the city not being committed to making sure that not one more year do we see grass that's up to the knees, that do we see alleys that have not been cleaned. And it's easy, it's an easy plan. I already got it written down. It's a very easy plan to get it cleaned up. And you don't have to throw a lot of money at it, but you have to start now. You can't wait until August and start putting out requests for proposals to cut grass. You got to start doing this now so that when the new cutting season comes up, that we can cut grass. We can already bring the backhoes and the brush cutters in and start cleaning these yards. Who would want to live next to something that has been 5 or 7 years since they last cut a grass? You got critters there, you got all kind of things. It is a frustration that only if you live in North St. Louis or some parts of Southeast St. Louis that you know, okay? And it is not fair. It is not okay. I don't care if we build another damn stadium. We need to address where people live that want to live like humans. And so with that, I will yield my time.
Further discussion, Alderwoman from the 19th.
How are we doing? Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Well, thank you. I just wanted to point out a few things, and I thank the Alderwoman from the first ward because it really had this resolution that actually had passion in it. That's the first thing. But there's no excuse for where we are today. None whatsoever. We have all these independent, small landscaping companies that reside in all of our wards. We all got 2 or 3 or 4. They all need to have contracts and get this city in order. Don't hire a firm from out of town. Please don't do that, because then that's going to be another problem we're going to have, okay? We also need to know that we have an environmental health problem. I am so sick of driving down the street and families of rodents are walking across the street like, this is my turn, you got to stop and wait. I literally, and they're bigger than I've ever seen one in my life now. We've got so many problems. The rodents that normally don't come into the urban community, they have decided that this is a good place to be. Plenty of trash and food discarded where they didn't pick up the debris, all kinds of stuff. So the possums and everything else. And some I can't identify. I took a picture of one, I'm going to look it up. Are now here, taking residency in the city of St. Louis. We've got lots where the weeds have become trees. It is frightening. And the criminals say, this is open season, because look at this ragged and nasty city that nobody cares about, and they won't even come and look for me to lock me up. So let me just take over too. So if we don't do something about this and be serious about it, I got a lot of free time because I only have to feed me and clothe me. And I've had enough. We have got to do something. And I even had a program out there in the workhouse where they were painting boards to go in my building. It's been doing that for years. And that was frowned upon. But it calmed down the inmates. And they're very talented. And they had great slogans and all kinds of things. give every opportunity for anybody to participate in making this a better city, no matter where they are. Thank you.
All right. Alderwoman from the 14th, you're recognized.
I'm sorry.
I said you're recognized.
You're the 14th, baby.
Anyway, no, I rise in support of this board bill, or this resolution. As North St. Louis goes, so does the rest of the city. We need to be aware of how we maintain our properties. LRA, we don't enforce how people maintain their properties. We have absentee landlords that walk away and let things go, and we put them in court, then we forgive them. We don't hold hardly anyone accountable for the way they maintain their properties. It's a shame that we have such a beautiful city and we're letting it go to seed. With the amount of money we have available to us through the ARPA Act, shame on our city if we don't take advantage of it to upgrade the maintenance, the quality of life, and the facilities we have. Because, I don't know about Northside, but I know they're leaving in droves, and people are done. They're just tired of fighting the good fight. And we can't keep catering. The people that are paying the taxes need to get the services. They need the services they're paying for. And every year, my phone rings, my taxes went up. They went up 20%. They went up, I'm paying more in personal property taxes. We can't keep doing this to people. We can't keep doing it to the people that are paying the freight for what they get here. So I rise in support of this. As I said before, I'll finalize the way the North St. Louis goes, the rest of the city goes. We need to rise and make sure that our city is clean and presentable for everyone. Thank you.
Woman from the first, we still need you to make a motion.
Not all.
Okay, repeat that. I think we can hear you now.
I'm scared. Okay, Andre. Madam President, members of the board, I move that we pass Resolution 150 and bank.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the first, seconded by the Alderwoman from, was it close? All 16, seconded by the Alderman from the 10th, that we pass resolution number 150 in bank. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
you.
carries.
That's the extent of first reading of resolutions.
Second reading of resolutions, committee reports and adoptions.
Resolution 145, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Ryan, Alderwoman Howard, Alderman Lappy, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Walker, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Evans, and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Fire Department promotions.
Alderman from the 23rd, you are recognized on the second reading of Resolution 145.
Yes, do I need to ask for unanimous consent? I didn't think so. No. So,
You need to make a motion.
I would make a motion that we pass Board Bill 145. Resolution 145.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 23rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we pass Resolution 145. You may proceed.
It's simple. We've been over it a few dozen times. 17 promotions. This includes minorities. There's at least 3 black women. My understanding, there are no captains that are minority women. This is holding them up, as well as 17 other promotions, which actually is more minorities than just those. But it's silly that we're just sitting on these promotions. This resolution calls for them to promote these people and do the new test. You got a court order. The court said you need to do this. let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do the right thing. It's going to be in court when we do get sued, which is going to happen. We're going to be paying a lot more in court costs and in paying these people that we didn't promote. If you don't believe me, look at all the police that have sued over these kind of issues. You know, so I'm not going to belabor it. Everybody knows it. I'm not going to have you reread it. That's what it does. It just simply calls for them, make the promotions, get a test together. Let's move on with life. So,
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Please make note of that.
So noted.
It's been motion to make Resolution 145 in bank. All in favor signify, oh, was there a second?
Yes.
Seconded, motion made by the Alderwoman from the 27th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we make Resolution 145 in bank. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
thank you so much. So I would just ask that we pass it out. So I renew my motion. Thank you.
It was moved by the Alderman from the 23rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we pass Resolution number 145. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Very good.
Resolution 146, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, President Green, and Alderwoman Negracia. Special Committee on the Transition to 14 Wards.
Alderwoman for the 26th, you are recognized on the second reading of Resolution 146.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the committee, members of the board. I move to pass Resolution 146.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 26th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we pass Resolution number 146. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Let's extend the second reading of resolutions, committee reports, and adoptions.
Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Tuesday, December 6th, Transportation and Commerce will have a meeting at 9 a.m. via webinar. Intergovernmental Affairs will have a meeting at 10 a.m. via webinar. Wednesday, December 7th, Streets will have a meeting at 10 a.m. via webinar. Personnel will have a meeting at 11 a.m. via webinar, and Public Safety will have a meeting at 1 p.m. via webinar. Thursday, December 8th, HUDs will have a meeting at 9 a.m. via webinar. Friday, December 9th, 2022, full board meeting at 1520 Market, second floor conference room. That is the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 25th? No? Further announcements? Alderwoman from the 26th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I promise I'm not going into all of my announcements again. I'm sticking to my script with that from our former president, Valmer. But I did want to announce, because I've been getting a lot of people reach out to me about speaking at the hearing on December the 8th for Board Bill 116. It's one of our many ARPA fund bills that are coming through right now. I want to make sure you know that, again, it was scheduled for today, and some people didn't get the memo that it was changed. So I will make sure I resend out those links so that you can come and speak and give your perspective and your thoughts on Board Bill 116. That is a very important bill that I've been getting a lot of feedback on, and I'm thankful for that. I did reach out to all of my colleagues, too, about sitting down with you all if you have any concerns or questions as we move into the hearing period of this. So again, be looking out for the links for the HUD's committee next, the HUD's committee next Thursday, the 8th at 9 a.m. for Board Bill 116. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Okay, Alderman from the 25th.
Thank you, Madam President. I do want to just make note that there is a meeting next Tuesday, December 6th at Vashon High School from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. To learn more about the selection of the St. Louis City Police Chief. So inviting all residents to participate in that very important process. Again, it's at Vashon High School next Tuesday, December 6th at 6 to 8 p.m.
Any further announcements? Do want to announce that we will have a special board meeting December 13th. We have to pass out the airport bonds before the first of the year, which requires us to have one additional meeting to get that done. So I hope it'll be short and sweet. We're scheduling it early in the week so folks can get on with their holiday travel. Alderwoman from the 19th. In person.
Okay, thank you. Two quick announcements. One, I'd like to give recognition to Becky Hatter, who is retiring from Big Brothers Big Sisters. She has been a champion for our children, and I've known her entire time being there. Their office is located in the 19th Ward. She is one of those people that she did the job because she cared, not for a salary, not for a title. She did it because she cared. And there's never, I welcome the new person, but Becky, you just can't replace her. And so I just wanted to say thank you to her again. And I wish everybody who is currently employed there to still be sure-footed, because you have a great, great plan before you on how you're going to expand some more soon. And Becky is leaving you in good shape, and she'll always be there if you need her. The next announcement for me is for letting you know that we're about to have another new bank in the 19th Ward, a Chase Manhattan Bank. In the MLK Plaza, they'll be doing their ribbon cutting December 14th. We were very serious about banking and getting our people involved in knowing and using banking. And so this is our third new bank. Your young man, he did the first one, PNC Bank. McMillan started it, and I carried it on with Reliance, which is now Simmons Bank, and now Chase. And I tell you, I was at a conference, a legislative conference in D.C., and the CEOs and stuff were there. I was like a little leech on their arm. And they were talking about they were expanding, and St. Louis was a possibility. And I know when I got through with them that they were coming to St. Louis. And it's 4 years later, and we got the first installation with an ATM when they came to St. Louis. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 26th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would be remiss if I didn't stand up and announce and have anybody else that wants to add into this announcement. So it's a sad, a bittersweet announcement, but it's also a well-wishing and a Godspeed announcement on the retirement of our beloved Lisa McNichols.
Oh, yes.
Further announcements? Any further announcements? Right. Excused Alderman.
That's me.
Alderman
Thank you,
from
Madam
the
President.
25th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you. Madam President, I move that we excuse the alderpersons from the 2nd and 12th wards for necessary absence.
We have a
That's a
second?
motion. I need a second.
You shouldn't be making that motion.
I know.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the
painful.
25th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we excuse the Alderman from the 2nd and the 12th for necessary absence. Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on the...
We need a vote.
Oh, sorry. Trying to get us out of here. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Right. Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adjourn until Friday, December 9th at 10 a.m., a full board meeting at City Hall West officially. Since the Board of Aldermen is now meeting here, we can probably call it that. 1520 Marketplace in this conference room.
Should be above.
Oh, I'm sorry, in the
floor.
second floor conference room.
Second floor.
Thank you so much. So I complete my
Do
motion.
we hear a second? Second. Thank you. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adjourn until Friday, December 9th in the second floor conference room at 1520 Market. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Have a great day.
Good job.